Welcome to another episode of Redesigning Your Relationships Live. I'm your host, Giovanna Burgess White, with my co-host.
Hello, I'm Yvette Valdenegros. So happy to be here.
And we're excited to be here and talk about our last part of our mini-series. We've been talking about the identity gap, and we are on part 4. So it has come to an ending. If you have not watched or listened, we do ask for you to go back. We will be doing mini-series every single month. We're doing short episodes with lots of nuggets. And this month's topic was the identity gap. And so today we're going to talk about how to bridge the identity gap. But if you didn't go back, please do go back to episode 1 and go and listen to Who Are You? Who are you? How do you identify? Part 2 is why is the identity gap happening? Part 3 is who is it happening to? And Yvette today is going to go through to bridge the gap. So welcome.
Woo, woo. So we're going to bring it all in because there's been so much. And thank you to everybody who's had comments that have reached out to us and just talked to us about what they're learning for themselves. Just listening to this. And this really is like a supplemental podcast to just really start having you think about what it is and why we have it. And then what can we do to bridge it? So in all reality, what the heck is an identity gap, right? Our identity is what we think of ourselves, who we are, but we want to focus in on the facts of who we are, right? The fact of being who or what a person or a thing truly is. Factual evidence, as in what would someone say about you that's true, not the things that we think about in our head that are not true. So we want to, continue to just emphasize that. Then secondly, what in the world do we mean by a gap? Because there's that identity, but then there's a gap because really there's something that's very incomplete and there's reasons why. And which we talked about this. I'll go back to episode 1 where we really break down what each one of these mean and how crazy it was that it ties into so many of the other things that we are always sharing and talking about. So again, everything begins from the inside out. It's all about you, your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, but who you are on the inside sometimes is not what you're portraying on the outside. And there's reasons for that. And so we talked about that. We talked about who it was happening to, the reasons why it's happening. And now let's wrap it up with, okay, great. Now Yvette and Gio, you've talked about this huge identity gap and there's this big cave and oh my God, I don't want to, you can see the little lady, she doesn't want to die, right? She wants to survive. So what and how do we bridge this gap? First thing with everything, we have to take responsibility that this is even happening and that this is really a thing. And let me just say this, everyone is along this bridge. You may have a short bridge, you may have a long bridge, you may have already be under construction, in construction, reconstructing. It doesn't matter. Everybody at some point, there is some form of little gap between who you are on the inside, what you think, believe, what you want, desires, then who you are on the outside that the rest of the world sees, maybe your actions. Something's not in alignment. We work towards that our entire lives. So it's not to be discouraging, like, oh my God, I'm never going to get there. No, how exciting to discover how to bridge this gap. But ultimately, because you're a growing, changing individual, you're constantly going to be shifting and moving things around to bridge this gap and become the best version of yourself. So first and foremost, taking responsibility and really identifying, yes, this is me. And if you need a little help with identification, go back to, I think it was episode 3 where we talked about who is this happening to. More than likely, you're going to fit into one of those categories. Okay. After you take this responsibility, you've got to make a decision to actually do something about it. Nothing ever happens with just, oh, I'm going to sit here and think and think and think and think and think and think and think. Nope. Making a decision requires some kind of action. But I also want to say this. Once you make a decision, that's where the work starts. You took your responsibility, you made the decision, but now the work begins. And don't think of work as like, oh my God, Yvette and Gio, now I have to walk up this huge hill. It doesn't have to be that way at all. But there has to be, you have to make a decision. Okay, number 3. Fall in love, and then it's blank. You're not falling in love with your dog. You're not falling in love with your boyfriend. You're not falling in love again with your husband. You're not falling in love with the world again. Nope. You are falling in love with you. Or I can sit there and say, I am falling in love with Yvette. And I think that's really important because, again, it begins with us. And if we truly don't understand who we are, if we don't understand why we're wired the way we are, if we don't embrace that, then how do you identify who you truly are? And then how do you authentically portray that to everyone around you? So you've got to really fall in love with yourself. Okay. And then start creating some goals. And when I say goals, again, I don't mean, oh, I'm going to go climb Mount Everest. No, just say you're going to go to a simple little hill and go climb it, or just take the baby steps. But you've got to create some kind of plan, a goal, some way that you can start identifying, like, am I making improvements to between my identity and the places that I want to go. And then it is just 100% just be you.
I love it. I love it. I love it. It's so crazy because we've been doing these mini series, and back in November, I think we did connections, collaborations, and networking. And for those of you guys who don't know, that Yvette and I are both in Houston. We're part of many, many communities, and the identity gap is something that we are now bringing into our 6-month coaching program, because we have seen in all of our communities that women identify with the roles, either with their business, with their career, with their job, or maybe their roles at home as a spouse, and they don't have identity, which leads to conversations like not having purpose, or really not living the life that they're supposed to. So one of the things that we love is that every time we go out, network, get to speak in our community, we get to really talk about this. And one of the things that I'm going to be talking about next week is how this really goes hand in hand with networking, because I feel like networking has it's either people love it or they hate it. There's no in between. And I think that I'm gonna be the person that kind of shows that there is a healthy balance of networking, and there is a healthy balance in having um, knowing where you need to be and how you need to identify. I think is the most important thing. But you should always identify person, not as what it is that you do. And so I love that these two mini series came together. And we're going to just talk about being authentic and genuine, but I think it's hard for people because they don't know who they really are. And this is something that I think you and I have done a great job with our Ignite community, with the HTX tribe. We really try to have them say, okay, let's talk about you. I don't want to talk about spouse, kids, work. I want to talk about you, goals, dreams, travel. And I remember the first time we did that, I think it was back in September or August or September, everybody's like, I don't know what to talk about. So it really is the time for you to start dreaming again and figuring out what it is that you want. And maybe the first step is just writing it down, but we really are here to help you find your voice. And I'm just so blessed that we're able to talk about this and it be normal. And I think the other thing that you and I have also seen it is that everyone that we know, all the women, not even our clients, are going through this. And I don't like to call it an identity crisis because it's not. I think we're just never to really create that persona. But I even see it with other groups when people retire. We just had a conversation about people retiring and not knowing what to do because all they've done is identify with work, or they go back to work part-time. And it's like, we got to find the things that make us happy, the things that light up our soul, and not our spouses, not our children, and start doing those things now so that when the time comes, when we have all the time for ourselves, we know what it is that we want to do.
Well, one thing that we didn't mention that it's almost like an obvious but a not obvious is that I really feel like this identity gap is the root to some people's depression because they're stuck on one side of the bridge. They do feel that hopelessness. They do feel exhausted. They're trying to build things that are not authentic. And so even what they're building their own bridges with, it could crumble eventually because it's not truly who they are. So they're just, it's almost like, I don't want to say building in a non-authentic fake way, but for someone who was doing it, it kind of is that you're building something that isn't going to be long standing because it's exhausting trying to keep up with it. keeping up with something that you yourself don't even know what you're doing. You just know that you're doing, but in the midst of it, you're like, I'm exhausted for doing what? And you feel stuck all the time. And it's because you're on one side of the bridge and you look over and you go, I have no idea how to even get there. And obviously, we just gave the reasons. But I also like, too, the description or the visual of a bridge, because actually, this is true. I live, we all know, right next to this wonderful railroad track and the trains that go by. But for the 3 years that I have lived here, there has been construction on a bridge that is linking one side of the track to the other. There has been mud. There has been water. They have a retention thing that they built. I mean, and the first thing that they have built before they even connected one side to the other was the structure that was going to bear the weight of the bridge. That is what I feel like, and I guess this is a shameful plug, but the program and the process that we've gone through and that we invite our clients to go through and share with, that is the true foundation to the bridge. Because when that tension comes, just like in life at the bridge, and let's say just the wind, you need a solid structure and you need tension and the tension rods and all that kind of stuff to kind of help you sway with it, because you're not going to break, right? But you do feel it, but you stay the course, you stay strong because you have built such a strong foundation. So in all reality, what I love about this is that for anybody who does feel that overwhelm or isolation or that they're stuck, you don't need to be. And for someone who was, I can 100% say you don't. So share with someone, and yes, call us, DM us. But in all reality, the most important thing is that you open up and find a secure place that you feel like you can grow and start building that bridge between your the identities. Oh no, I lost you. You're on mute.
Just kidding. I'm on mute. If you're watching this or listening to us for the first time, thank you for being here. But please go back, because this will make more sense by listening to part 1, 2, and 3. And as all of you guys know, we are here for you. You guys can click the link, schedule a virtual connect with us. They're complimentary. If anything spoke to you here, or there's just something in your life you want to change, or relationship that you want to work on, that's what we're here for. And then don't forget, every Wednesday we have a brand new episode. Every Friday, the podcast drops on all podcast platforms. All of January was sponsored by JNC Branding. They are our creative branding team, not only for us, but for our partners, all of our businesses all the women in business that we help. So their links are also in everywhere that you're watching or listening. And then we have some really great guests coming up in the next couple of months. So stay tuned. We're going to have a special episode on 2-2. And then next month, we have a brand new topic. So make sure that you're following us on social media or at YG Collaborations. Go to our website so you can just see what it is that we're doing for you this year. And until next week, we'll see you then. Bye. Bye.